Hi, I'm Alistair Shipley. Driven by the beliefs that everyone has something special to offer, I created Not So Average, the podcast that proves that you don't need to be in the top 1% to be truly extraordinary. Each episode spotlights everyday people from your community, the very individuals you might pass on the street. These relatable stories reveal that whether you're a jack of all trades or a niche specialist, we all have unique experiences and valuable lessons to share. Imagine if we all took a moment to realize we're all not so average. Let's get after it. You know, launching a podcast has felt a lot like starting a new company. Something that today's guest can definitely talk about. In the beginning, it's all about leaning on your personal network. With their support and enthusiasm, you start to inspire others to join your journey. Just like in the startup world's friends and family round, these first few guests come from my personal circle. I'm thrilled to welcome a longtime friend who I first met when I was in university with business competitions. He definitely kicked my ass. Not only is he the best golfer I've ever shared a round with, but he's also an exceptionally big thinker, a newly minted father, congratulations, and an amazing friend and sounding board. Plus, he is the co-founder of one of Canada's most recognized healthy prepared food companies, Inspired Go. Please join me in welcoming Derek Rucki to the show. Derek.
Thanks, my man. Excited to do this.
I'm glad you made it out.
I think this is a great idea.
Thanks, buddy. So how long have we known each other now? 12 years?
Oh, man. Yeah, I think probably was the first launch pad was 2015, so.
Holy criminy.
Yeah.
So for those that aren't familiar with our neck of the woods, we come from a place called Calgary, Alberta. The university was Mount Royal University, and we were one of the earlier students of this program for innovation and entrepreneurship. And Derek and I met because I can't even remember what the competition was, but we got brought together, and then one of your later co-founders was in it too, and somebody else.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like our whole friend group actually came out of that entrepreneurial university experience. I know you have many friend circles, but most of my friend group has come out of that program, which is crazy.
The nickname The Tribe is what they've called it, and it's incredible. They haven't really been able to duplicate that group since, but they've had a lot of like really closely knit friend groups that came from it, but just our sheer size, a lot of the people that are going to end up being on this podcast initially until we get the ball rolling are people from the tribe. So I'm pretty excited to have you on here. Should we jump right in?
Yeah, let's jump right in.
Okay. Derek definitely has an entrepreneurial background, as you'll find out through further discussions, but want to just dive right into kind of like your early inspirations and what drove your entrepreneurial drive. So what sparked your interest in entrepreneurship, and how did your time at Mount Royal University shape it? But before you dive in though, like I say this because I was there with you, but did it actually start sooner, or was Mount Royal a big driving factor for you?
So I would say I should go way back just very briefly, because the first business was a golf one. And so 11-year-old Derek, for whatever reason, just became obsessed with golf one day. I actually know the reason. I remember I was so jealous of my cousin Jared, because all the family was at Christmas and was just talking about how good Jared was. I was just like, screw Jared. Like, I want them talking about me. And that just set me on this junior golf path of like pure obsession. 200 rounds a year, like all I wanted to do was be a golfer. So if you asked 11 to 18-year-old Derek, no, business was never something I would have said. It would have been pro golfer.
Straight golf.
And so I got a scholarship to go south in Texas and play, and realized really quickly, okay, I'm good in this little country called Canada. I get down there and I think I'm this close, and I'm so far away from being a professional player.
Okay.
And so it was in that moment that I'm like, okay, I picked the wrong game. Not many people play golf and end up actually having a big career at it. A lot of people play the game of business and actually end up being successful in business. So that was the pivot into, okay, I go to Mount Royal, lost, trying to figure out, okay, where do I put all this energy of, I used to just wake up every day and it's like, how do I get better at this sport? And now I'm searching for that next thing. Land in Ray DePaul's entrepreneurship class, and
shout out to Ray DePaul.
Shout out Ray DePaul. He's the man, he's our Yoda. And that was where I realized, okay, if you have a place to put energy, business is like this basically unfillable hole, right? And so the first business came out of Mount Royal as a result of, okay, I'm taking what I learned from golf. And I would say Ray and that class taught us this idea of, okay, find a problem in an area that you're interested in or you have knowledge in, and then we're gonna experiment on it. So I would say I nurtured it out of that class. Now looking back, I'm sure I had business-minded tendencies, but that was for sure a spark in getting me going down an entrepreneurial path.
Heck yeah. No, that's awesome. It's incredible the amount of people. So this person will probably come up quite a few times in the podcast, especially because my friend circle is greatly driven by university experience. Ray DePaul really sparked a lot of people's pivots in terms of just how they viewed things. I personally was going to school to become a restaurateur. I had full intentions with my hospitality management background that I was going to get into business to start restaurants, and then I was going to do interior design and concept. And then I met Ray and I was like, nah, we're going to get into something completely different.
Yeah, he's pretty good at doing that.
Yeah, really spins you on your head.
Although I do remember he told a story in that first class about a student entrepreneur, I think in Waterloo when he was there. And he's like, yeah, student entrepreneur, came in, third year student, had this idea for this thing called Buffer Box. Then 8 months later, sold it to Google for X millions of dollars. And I remember being like, oh, sounds pretty easy.
I want to do it. I want to do it. Oh, man.
Not that easy.
That was like the early days of Dragon's Den and Shark Tank. So that glorification was just getting started for entrepreneurship. And it was just like, if this is what it looks like on TV, and then you hear these stories from Ray, you're just like, man, anybody could do it. That's awesome. One of the companies that you started was TLink Golf, and you alluded to it as one of your projects that started at Mount Royal. Can you share the story behind TLink Golf? How did your background as a top junior golfer in Canada kind of influence that for you?
So it was a 5-year journey. So long story, but the short version is I decided, okay, I'm not going to be a professional golfer. I'm in between here. I was actually working at Golf Town over that summer, and this was 2013, I want to say. And golf GPS watches were like this exploding category at the time. I'm selling 10 of these things a day. And basically what they do is you look at your wrist, it tells you how far away you are from the green. So you can just pick a club really easily. And I see these things selling like crazy, but me as a player, I try them on, I try swinging with them, very heavy, very bulky, very expensive as well. And I just couldn't imagine the distraction of having this weight on your wrist, but I got the convenience of it. And so we're in Ray's class and he just says, hey, have you identified a problem? And I'm thinking about this in the back of my head, where at the same time, smartphones were getting good enough that you could actually do the GPS calculations and yardages just on an app on your phone. It was just good enough at that point, and these apps were starting to take off. And so the thought was, okay, can we combine both here? Can we get the convenience of a wearable, but we'll move all of that computation, all that hard work over to the phone that you already own? And so the wearable can just be a Bluetooth dummy display, so you could get the size way, way down, you could get the cost down, and that was the initial idea for TLink. And so you go through these entrepreneurship classes and it's like pitch competitions, you get some grants, you're just excited by the whole concept.
You were like planning to fly to China. No, you did fly to China.
Yeah, right? So that's fast forwarding. We end up making this thing. We raised some money from investors. We manufactured and sold 20,000 units of this product. Multiple trips to China, meet Stefan, my business partner, who should also be on this podcast, incredible guy. And
reached out to him. He hasn't responded yet.
Busy guy.
Busy guy.
Yeah. So yeah, anyways, that business sent us to China. It looked like it was going to be this success. I would say we were like not talk of the town, but there was a lot going on. Like we were featured as Startup of the Week, and
there was EO was one.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that like as a student entrepreneur, you get on this pitch competition path, where I won the top in Alberta, and then I won the top student entrepreneur in Canada. I went and competed in the US. And I actually feel like that was a little bit of the like mistake.
Distraction.
Yeah, like one of those things in that business, because it did not work out after 5 years. I can tell that story if you want, but you get distracted by like the illusion of progress a little bit when you're a student entrepreneur. And I see it all the time now when I mentor, because I'm like, that was me, where you get very into, oh man, the networking events and the awards, and just there is a lot of distraction that feels good. It's like the dopamine hit of entrepreneurship, but really it's like it's removed from the thing that creates a really good business. And I would say we did a lot of things. Like I said, we did sell a few $1 million worth of this product, but ultimately it did not work out. And yeah, that was a really tough time shutting something down after, because I went all in. I completely dropped out of university. It felt like my second all-in moment because I went really all in on golf.
Yeah.
Stop that, go all in on business, drop out to do that business, and then end it after 5 years of just grinding on it in like a mountain of debt.
Yeah.
And yeah, so tough one. First one did not work out.
Yeah. There was a question around what led to the success that you had with TLink, but I actually want to dive into and skip that question because you just segued nicely into it. Conversely, obviously, you had the closure of TLink. What lessons did you learn from that experience, and how did it kind of shape how you started to view your next ventures? Because we'll get into those after. You had two other, well, one you were a partner in, and then the next one, the big one, the Inspired Go. How did TLink's shortcomings lead to your success in the other ones?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is like when you are going through a business failure like that, it's not like boom, it fails one day. It's this drawn out, like you see it coming, but there's still a lot of things to do to wrap it up. And it's just like a brutal, long process. And everyone comes to you and everyone wants to tell you, oh, you learned so much though. And all that's, and it's just in that moment, I don't know about everybody else.
Glorification of failure.
In that moment, I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I wish I didn't learn so much. Like, the failure actually just sucks when failure sucks. And I think there is a glorification of it. But I will say the one thing that I did do is I can't remember which book this is in, but the equation of pain plus reflection equals progress. And
I'm gonna look that up at the same time here.
I don't know. I think it might have been Principles by Ray Dalio.
Okay.
Love that book. And I remember reading it at that time and going, okay, I'm in pain right now. I'm really gonna like take the time. You're good at this, right? Like the analytical mind that you and I both have. I took the time and I did write down like all the decisions that I could remember, what went right, what went wrong. And I do feel like I learned a lot more as a result of doing that reflection. And one of the things of what I just said is I actually feel like getting distracted by things that don't create a business result, right? Where getting distracted by the accolades or social media posting or whatever it may be, and really just realizing I did not spend enough time talking to our customers and understanding, because we did have customers, we had 20,000 people using this product, never talked to them, really. I just assumed I'm a golfer, I know what I'm doing.
We also got taught that too. Solve a problem that you would want, and then so you started to believe that you were the ultimate purchaser, and by proxy, everybody else is going to love what you're creating because you're solving a problem for yourself.
Yeah, it's true. And it's tough because I feel like I did it in the beginning to validate the idea. Once the business is going, it's actually more valuable to do it with your existing customers. Now we do it all the time with Inspire Go, just like, hey, what do you like about this? What do you not like about this? Never did that. And also just never, I feel like we got caught down a very singular path where it's easy to get blinders on, where it's okay, we're just selling. For us, we go to our first trade show and we get a big wholesale order where you sell 1,000 watches in one shot. And that for us, I think, put blinders on, and we never looked at other ways of selling the product really from that point forward.
I remember that.
Where now, like our entire business is basically direct to consumer digital marketing. And now looking back, if we didn't have the blinders on of just, I feel like that actually would have been a successful path for the business, is going direct to consumer. So yeah, there's a million little lessons that you learn, but honestly, it's like that midwit meme where I just come back to just build a great product, talk to your customers, test distribution channels. If 90% of your time is not spent doing those things as a business owner, and you're spending it on these other things that feel productive, but really don't create a great product or service, you're almost like acting entrepreneurship instead of being a true one, right? Yeah,
that's interesting because yesterday, I made a post on my personal channel from a very popular podcaster. I hope to one day have the success that he's reached, but that Chris Williamson, he made a post about doing the thing. And there's this common trend that people run into is this belief that you're doing something that's leading you to your end goal because you're spending the time to sit down and write it out, or you're talking to people about writing it out, or you're talking to the people that are doing the thing that you want to do. But at its core, you have to be focused on the thing. You have to be building the thing. You have to be in the trenches. You can't just be from afar giving this idea that you're doing the work without actually doing the work. And we all know when we're doing the work, when you're lying to yourself.
Totally.
Like you have that shit meter in yourself all the time. Like when somebody's just, or it's pretty easy for a friend to be like, hey, no, you're doing a good job. Nobody ever wants to be like, Alistair, seriously?
Right.
I know that you're fucking cheating yourself. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put explicit content on this now. I'm dropping that bomb, but anyways.
But that was like the main thing I took away from Atomic Habits, that book by James Clear, is same thing as Chris, was he labeled that as being stuck in motion versus taking action. And man, that is definitely a tendency of mine where it's like, oh, you get so caught up in brainstorming and ideating and even learning and reading, and like none of these things are bad.
They're supporting.
But if you just do those things, like nothing actually happens. Like you need to take action. And yeah, I feel like it can be like I can get caught in that trap of like productively procrastinating, where it's not like watching Netflix, but you got to actually go and do the thing.
Yeah,
like you said.
Oh my gosh, that gets me pumped just to keep doing this, because when I saw that podcast or that little clip from Chris Williamson, I was just like, okay, I'm firing off 4 more requests for people to do interviews with me. Like, I need to do this thing. I've launched something publicly. I now had friends personally share, hey, this is a podcast that I'm proud to represent that my friend's doing. I'm like, there's something I can't drop it now.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah, so once you see that, you like can't unsee it. Like in yourself of, okay, I spent a day writing down podcast ideas and whatever it may be, but you take the action and we're actually recording one now.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let's go into kind of like transitioning between your ventures and stuff like that. So after TLink Golf, checking out your LinkedIn, obviously you partnered with Stefan, one of your partners from TLink, started Bridgewater Labs, which is a tech development shop. Is that safe to call it that?
Yep.
But what are you most excited about right now? What you're most excited about right now is Inspired Go, which has a large nationwide focus on healthy meal delivery. What motivated you to shift from sports technology to tech to now the food industry? Like, I'm always interested in this non-linear path that people end up on. How did you get to the food industry, in a sense?
Yeah, like completely randomly. It's like I would never have guessed I would be doing salad delivery, right? Like not in a million years. So the bridge there was, we're doing TLink, but as a tech business, and we were starting to build more and more software in that business. We were doing some like automation for tournaments and things like that. And so instead of hiring our own developers, Stefan, Serbian, there's a hotbed of developer talent in Serbia. So he goes there, he finds this agency, Bridgewater, that basically can develop for us. And so we started working with them ourselves. They're doing a great job. And then we're just getting networked in the Calgary community. We start referring them business. And we just are growing their business for them basically by referring Calgary or Canadian-based startups that need affordable development.
I personally use them too with Rudy.
Exactly.
Turtle Valley.
Yeah, it was one of those organic things where TLink is winding down, but at the same time we're growing this other business, and we do have the expertise now to bridge that gap between Calgary tech or Canadian tech and like these developers over there. And so we just made a partnership with them and said, hey, this is clearly going well. We're referring you business. We're shutting down this one, but why don't we just basically open up a Canadian office here and we'll continue to bring business in and, do the requirements. So got some experience there of, working with entrepreneurs or businesses and figuring out what they needed to build and then using the team over there to build it. I will say though, learned very quickly, I do not want to run an agency business.
No.
I think it's a tough slugging kind of business.
What was the hardest part about it? I know from my experience with Bridgewater is probably the fact that we didn't have clear direction on what we wanted and relied on you guys a little too much.
Yeah, and you're constantly switching between all of these different businesses. That's not the way my mind works. I love to just go deep on one thing and just be like, when I'm going to bed and when I'm waking up, I'm thinking about one business idea. I don't like to have a million things going on. And when you have an agency, you're literally just signing up for that life. You're signing up for having all these different clients.
ADHD for a career path.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's also just like you're managing people and clients in that way, it very much made me realize, okay, I want to be building my own products here. Sure, this is a good experience, but I'm building other people's products and then they just go away and I don't get to do anything. So that was where the bridge came, was my current business partner, John, basically we get introduced one day. He's like selling salads office to office. I'm at Bridgewater at this time when he's like, hey, I'm trying to get like a subscription website going or whatever. And I'm like, you know what, I'll just build you one just myself. I'll do a Shopify store. I have some experience in that. And his whole idea was like, okay, we'll get office buildings, oil and gas companies or whatever, subscribing to weekly salad deliveries. and we started working together in that way, and then it continued to unfold from there. So yeah, none of that was intentional. It was just like smooth progression, one thing to the next.
Seems to be how it goes though. Like when you listen to a lot of entrepreneurship stories. So my previous mentor at the robotics company he went from nursing to home building to skateboard company to then robotics. But like when you hear his actual reasoning of how he fell into these positions, it was very natural. It's like mine too, from culinary to tech down in the States to door-to-door sales to bison ranching and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that is that like luck is where preparation meets opportunity is like so much of that actually is luck.
Yeah.
If John hadn't, we just random connection and boom, now like my life's on this different trajectory. But how many times has that happened in our lives? But
you also take those opportunities.
Exactly.
I think that's the big thing. A lot of people think, oh, I have no opportunities. It's because they have your terminology, horse blinders on for whatever reason, and they've just ignored that this was presented to them and they didn't take that chance.
100%. And he probably would have never trusted me if I didn't have the prerequisite skills to go, yeah, I'll just build your Shopify website. I actually enjoy doing that. Let me just do that for you. So yeah, it is that combination of you have to get a little bit lucky, but you see those chances and you take them.
Mm-hmm. Man, I wish I had the recall for these quotes like you do, because there's a whole bunch of scenarios that I've listened to or read in books about just taking advantage of what is to some a lucky scenario, but it's you make your own luck.
Yeah, which by the way, I think is the greatest thing about that Mount Royal Entrepreneurship Program or any of those is it's like that type of luck where lucky things happen just by the fact that you're just basically hustling and you're meeting different people and you're put in opportunities for luck to just randomly occur because it just won't happen sitting in a room by yourself.
No.
And so I think that is a really important part of that experience is how many lucky breaks you get just by sheer nature of being a student entrepreneur. And you do get to stand on a stage and pitch 100 people and, oh my God, that person does know some random factory in China that can connect us to make this product. And a lot of luck in business, but you do create it to some degree.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait for 20, 30 years from now to have kind of that PayPal mafia look at here's our spider web of that tribe from Mount Royal, because there's some real cool stuff going on there.
Yeah, it's weird how everything has evolved. It's such a cool group to be a part of though.
It really is. For those that tune in on YouTube, because we obviously film this as well, I'm smiling ear to ear because these are the kind of conversations that I get to have with my friends, and I'm always freaking proud to sit down with them. Being a busy group of people, it's hard to get everybody together, but when you get these one-off shots, it's something to be excited about. I was pumped at 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, I always love these conversations too, for sure.
I actually want to go back to, we're going to start plugging Inspire Go, your new baby. Not your new baby, but your new business baby.
Plug away.
You recently expanded down to the US. What insights did you gain about scaling your business up into what we see today? What insights did you have from your Canadian market that might have helped you expand down to your US markets? And how's that going, by the way?
It's good, yeah. We're going at warp speed. So I'd say everything has been a progression. And so just to give a sense of, we start in Calgary and we just deliver packaged salads to homes. It's like the HelloFresh type model, but with ready to eat packaged salads. And you start in one city and you develop a playbook as you go. Okay, here's how we acquire customers, here's how we get drivers onboarded, and then we expand throughout Western Canada. We do it all out of Calgary, so we make the food here, we have our hands on here. And I would say the learnings around that was, how can you turn on a market really quickly? And so for me, that looked like I just became full-blown obsessed with Facebook and Instagram ads and learning the direct-to-consumer side of the world of, you need to get density in these cities, right? The tighter these deliveries are together, the lower the cost per drop, because last mile is a huge component to just how these businesses work. And so I would say that playbook gets further refined with every city launch. You launch Vancouver, Edmonton, Saskatoon, every city in Western Canada. That kind of gave us the Western Canada playbook. The question was then, okay, we go Eastern Canada, will that work? And then when we go in the US, what are the differences there? And I would say in general, I expected there to be more differences as far as the consumer goes.
Okay.
But honestly, there hasn't been a lot. Everyone wants to eat healthy. There's actually a huge, not everyone, but there's a huge wave towards healthy eating right now. Like they're doing the Make America Healthy Again craze that we're trying to ride in the US. So I would say that playbook, honestly, it has worked. And what are the learnings that helped us go, from here to there? I would say basically operating our own facility here, it's like owning a franchise, and then everywhere else we go, we basically use co-packers and we train them on how to do our product. And
Do you rely heavily on like the gig economy at all, or do you have networks that you can just plug into? Because that's you often hear about it with the Ubers, the Lyfts, any gig economy platform is the customers to drivers relationship, and if you have one more than the other, it doesn't really smoothly launch, I guess you could say.
Yeah, like in Canada, we have our own fleet that we hire, but they're all contractors, so we pay them per route. And
They're
so,
fantastic people, by the way. I think I had Stacy this week deliver my food. She was so kind.
Stacy, love
it. Yeah.
But we spent a lot of time here automating those processes. Before from job posting, someone clicks the job posting, pre-recorded video interview.
Do you build these or off the shelf kind of?
We built all these automation tools to basically onboard and scale up driver hiring quickly, where basically we don't have to speak to a driver. They can sign up through our form, they can do the video interview, someone can watch them on 2x speed, they can see that they submitted all the prerequisite documents that we need.
Yep.
If our HR person hits the hire button, it puts them into a flow that onboards them and gives them all the training that they need so that they show up at the warehouse with the app installed and they know what to do, and a head driver is there to greet them. And so I would say that it's just those learnings are what has helped the US work. The US has been different from a last mile perspective. They have different laws, especially California. We have had to leverage what you're talking about, which is third-party logistics companies.
Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I will say the challenging thing about the US is it is a more competitive environment. It's more expensive. And launching ads going into an election cycle is messy, was a big lesson that we learned for sure. Because there's so much, especially in these swing states that we're in, where there's billions of dollars of being pumped into those states to try and swing voters, right?
Yeah.
And so we're trying to
you were
bid.
launching during that period.
Like we're trying to bid to reach those eyeballs too. And so it just, it was.
Are you able to disclose
start.
how much your customer acquisition cost increased from before the election push to?
Here's the crazy thing. So just the cost, so the metric is like a CPM, right? The cost to reach 1,000
For those
people.
that don't know, what is a CPM?
Cost to serve 1,000 impressions to somebody on, let's say on Facebook or on Instagram.
Okay, and they didn't know what that meant either, so I had to ask.
That cost, it's weird, CPM, it's mil, I don't know. Anyways, the cost basically is like 400 to 500% higher than Canada. And then it basically doubled over the election cycle. So what's crazy is like we serve an ad to somebody in the US, it's out of the gate going to cost 400% more to reach that person. And then you have to wonder about all the downstream metrics from that. Okay, well then what's your click-through rate and what's your conversion rate?
Yeah.
And Americans, it is more of a convenience-seeking society. So all those downstream metrics are better than Canada, right? Of like higher click-through rates, higher conversion rates, but you are spending a lot more to reach that consumer.
So what you've seen, your retention?
And retention has been similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Man, I'm so excited to see how the holiday push goes for you, because it's notorious in the health food industry, the spike in January. But that also played into why you're launching at the period in time that you did, right?
Yeah, January, like we talk about it as like the salad Super Bowl for us. We prepare the whole team for just full-blown scale-up battle.
Yeah, I love
Come January, it's crazy. And then conversely, this is like my least favorite. November is terrible, things slow down, but then we're dealing with the changing road conditions. And we have, every November, something major happens in this business, which is just, I got some stories.
Okay. Does it have anything to do with Canadian Post at all? Does that impact you at all?
That does not impact us because we do our own deliveries. Okay. But I'll give you an example. I think it was 2 Novembers ago, 2022. Do you remember when the highways flooded and washed out?
Yeah, in British Columbia.
So we truck all of our product from Calgary to Vancouver.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, atmospheric river, which is like that word now, just gives me the shivers because it's like highways wash out, trucks get stopped, right? You can't get any of our orders to the people in Vancouver. And you start to brainstorm, okay, do you go down into the US? And then you're dealing with these customs issues with the FDA, and that wasn't going to work. And so you realize, okay, we're going to have full losses here. We've already made the food and we've already taking customers' money. This is a big deal. The long story short, your buddy Evan would like this, is we start thinking, okay, can we fly the salads there, right?
Yeah.
All the big companies take all the cargo planes. Cargo planes are gone. You can't even get one. And so we found a company that had a private passenger plane that agreed to take the seats out. So we take the seats out, we turn it into a cargo plane, and we hand bomb thousands of orders onto this plane, which now we're flying salads. We find another company in Vancouver that basically filled the plane coming back that had the inverse problem. And man, food is just, I love this business a lot of times, but it is messy when you got stuff like that you're dealing with, and we're just literally flying salads back and forth to try and solve this problem.
Next time you have any flight problems, you let me know.
He's the guy now, I guess.
He's the guy. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. We're gonna pivot just a little bit. This is a section that I'm interested in, like personal growth and your resilience. So I like those talking points, but just to discuss some other things that other people will find a lot of relatability to. So throughout your entrepreneurial journey, how have you maintained your resilience during periods of uncertainty or failure? So obviously, you pointed out you had this British Columbia atmospheric river. You had TLink Golf went through its closure. How have you basically maintained yourself during these times?
Yeah, it's not easy. TLink is the most obvious one. Like these business challenges, like the one I just talked about, that pales in comparison to the actual closing of a business like that. And it's really hard.
Yeah.
But like, what are the specific things I can point to that I did is one of the stupid ones, but I'll say it because it's related to this. Is I remember I would always listen to podcasts during that time.
Yeah.
Like I think it's How I Built This, Guy Raz. And loved just hearing these other entrepreneurial stories. And it's very common, like most of them have this moment of failure in their story, right? And so I remember on the drive to the office, I would pretend that I was on that podcast and I would just speak out loud and try and be like, yes, it failed here. And then this happened, and try and just
changing your frame.
Yeah, because I can't just think about that, just speaking it and trying to speak out, okay, here's how I recovered from this. I can't even remember any things that I said. None of them were start a salad company. Mm-hmm. That doesn't matter. But I will say that practice of just trying to get yourself in the mindset of I'm going to get through it helped a lot. I will say falling in love and like meeting my wife and whatever during this exact period of time, huge help. Can't really give that as advice, but I was lucky that's the way that played out.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have been able to get through that as smoothly as I did without having her. But then, man, what you're so good at this of just, okay, I think Stefan told me one day, man, you're looking pretty skinny. Like you've been working out. Someone told me that, and so
the bulk.
Started hitting the gym. I like honestly joining that CrossFit gym at that time was super important for me because it was like not only fitness, but all of a sudden you have this like community of people that you're talking to every single day. And then Dahlia was like a huge snowboarder, and all of a sudden we're going to the mountains every Saturday, regardless of how sad I feel about what's going on. I'm just getting this fresh air and hanging out with her.
Bathing.
And I don't know, just enough of that. Just eventually one day I wake up, I'm like, okay, I'm okay. Start another thing, do the next business. But I don't know. You're so good at dialing in your routine when things get tough that I think it is just everyone's maybe a little bit different of what helps them.
Mm-hmm. How long do you think it took from the period that you knew that you're going to have to close down to when you felt a little piece of your normal self come back? If you were to guesstimate. I know it's not one moment, but there's probably like a time frame.
Yeah, it probably took a good year.
Yeah.
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 And honestly, the hardest thing about that business failure too was like there was a large personal guarantee there where that was like looming over your head. So
how do you back this, and how do I?
And also I was like negotiating the payments of this thing. So you're depressed about this just closed down, it didn't work, and then you're anxious about oh my god, like how am I going to pay this back? And so all that took about a year until it's like okay, I know my downside. We have a plan to do that, but it felt like longer for sure.
Yeah. Did you find that your financial backers were reasonable when you brought to their attention, hey, this is what's happening? Or did you find anybody was exceptionally harsh on you for I guess, the downfall or the loss of their money?
So I think we had, call it a dozen investors. There was only one that wouldn't let it go.
Yeah.
And I would say that one person was someone we probably just shouldn't have taken the money. Like it was more money than they should have invested in a startup.
Yeah.
All the other ones are more professional investors that actually understand the game of, hey, maybe 1 out of 10 of these actually hits. This isn't the S&P 500. And I think and that's partly on me where I probably sold it too hard of like how well things are going and the
Good and a
downside.
bad skill. Good and a bad skill.
Yeah. And I do remember though, like someone, when I think I asked Ray, hey, this is winding down, what's your advice here? And he did tell me like, make sure you actually sit down with all of these investors and call them and talk to them. And when you're in that mindset, it's so easy to just send another investor update that says we're closing down. And that's such good advice. If something is that serious, you know, you need to speak to people. And when I did, I was so scared for every one of those conversations, but the majority of them were just, no problem, let me know what you do next kind of thing.
I like that humanizing aspect of it too, because it's so disconnected when you send a text message or an email, and it is easier. It's, okay, you send this over and then you just don't respond to them. You just lob it over the fence and just let it land how it lands. But you almost diffuse the situation more by just humanizing them.
Oh,
sitting down, having a conversation. They can see that this wasn't just like a loss that you're happy to be done with. Like you actually felt the pain, you felt remorse, you felt all those things for them.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, I feel like that is a lesson I've had to learn over and over again, where it's because you get so into the Slack messages and email, and that's the way you're communicating. But that if something, whether it's with an employee or an investor in this case, if something is over a 5 out of 10 on the serious, and you find yourself rewriting the message a bunch of times to get the wording and the explanation right, that's a phone call.
Yeah.
Made that mistake a few times.
That's a good move. I like that rule. 5, if it's taken you a few iterations, you should probably just be
think about it too hard and massage the messaging, you probably just make that call.
I always related it to my door-to-door background, but I've been heavy on the calls when I think that it's going to take me longer to respond than it's going to be for me to just call somebody. I just always got in the habit of ringing somebody, but that's good. So this is one that I personally wanted to hear about because I just really respect how you've balance this stuff out. So we often hear about the aspiration of finding work-life balance, right? That has been glorified on every social media platform ever. We've heard about it in school, we've read it in books, it doesn't matter. What are your initial thoughts on that, and how do you navigate balance as a father, husband, son, friend, and a company founder? What does that even mean to you?
I don't know if I'm the best person at this. I think if you were to ask my wife,
it's gonna be different,
or any of my friends, I'm pretty sure most people would say that I'm a workaholic, and I think I am, and I think I've always been that way since I was even a kid. Like it was just golf then, and now it's business. So this is something that I don't want to say struggle with, but honestly, it's just like of my nature that I am going to be less balanced because I think my operating system is I need to wake up and just apply maximum energy into the one thing that I'm thinking about at that moment.
Yeah.
Which does for sure knock me off balance. And so I would say, you know, how do I achieve balance and what are the things that I think about with that? One, I don't think you can have it all. Like at least in the beginning, like I believe, man, is it hard to grow a successful business even when you are working crazy hours. So I think there's a recognition like you have to sacrifice some things in order to be successful. Now, how do you integrate? Like I care about fitness like you do. And so doing for me, but I also need socialization. I miss this now, but was doing these group fitness classes in the morning with friends, like that was amazing.
So how do you combine more things to get maximum output and I guess therefore more balance?
Yeah, exactly. And I value spending time with Dahlia, but I also value the getting outside and just getting out of my head and more into my body. So it's like the snowboarding is an amazing combination of things on that side, and just fitting it into our routine and our habits, it helps for sure. And yeah, I don't know. I think that life is like, it comes in seasons. Like I have had some slower parts and I have had some faster parts. And I feel like there will be a season where maybe when my kids are starting to get a little bit older where I actually like dial that back a little bit and I want that to be more of the focus. But until then, it's just trying to stay healthy and like just speaking honestly, build the biggest business possible without burning out and continuing to maintain friendships and health. And I don't think I'm perfect at this by any means.
I don't think there's a perfect answer for that at the end of the day. Like balance is all perspective. And I strongly believe that what you're doing works for you. And as long as you don't feel that you're burning other bridges and sacrificing things that are unredeemable maybe later on, like you obviously do have a drive. That's one thing that's been pretty apparent our entire friendship. Most of our friends are very focused as well. They go after what they want. And I don't think there is this perfect, like, I have 8 hours of sleep and then I have 8 hours with my family and then I have 8 hours at work. Like you can't compartmentalize absolutely every component. And I love that aspect of, hey, how can I blend things? I had Grant, one of our friends, he was like, hey, I have a really busy schedule. I want to get together with you. Do you want to go to the gym and we can chat this all out? And we probably had a 30-minute longer than normal workout because we're socializing, but it was just, hell yeah, let's freaking do stuff like that.
Doesn't have to stop your routine or whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
And I think like when you have friends too that are on like a busier schedule or whatever, like our friend group, that's also what I value about the every 2-month poker nights that we try and do with the guys.
I missed that.
That was last night. You missed that. That's okay. We're doing this now. But I think that's really valuable. Just, okay, all the boys try and get together every couple months, you get to see each other, and it versus the stuff that you're talking about where it feels like less organic.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So what are some of the personal habits or mindsets that have been crucial in overcoming your challenges or just continuing to stay motivated?
I've just learned about myself as this is simple stuff, but like I have to work out in the morning. Otherwise, and having a kid too, I've realized this more where in the beginning you're dealing with some sleep challenges and now that's even past and it's not even a thing. But going through that, I've actually learned, okay, you can exchange an hour of sleep for an hour of exercise first thing in the morning.
You find an equal exchange or energy levels
up
are the
to
same?
about 6 hours for me, maybe 6.5, where it's if I'm getting 6.5 hours of sleep, that's actually enough, assuming I do a 1 hour workout in the morning.
Oh, interesting.
But if I'm doing 6 hours of sleep and I'm not working out, there's something about that just doesn't work for my chemistry.
Okay.
Where you're like, I'm almost not sleeping deep enough. And so, I don't know, it's been said by a billion people probably, but like the early morning workout for me is just so important mentally and physically and it helps with sleep. And I feel like it actually just tees up my entire day. Yeah. So that habit, I would say, has been very important for me. And then just the habit of the night before, like before I go upstairs and hang out with Arya and Dahlia, actually thinking about my next day of, okay, what are the priorities? Because there's so much noise in business of if tomorrow comes and I get these 1, 2, 3 things done, it will be a good day. That's been really important because I feel like by the time 9 o'clock rolls around and the messages are rolling in and the problems are started, you aren't necessarily in that mindset anymore. You're just getting pulled into the day.
You do the same to-do list for your personal stuff as well? Or do you let that one kind of play out as it?
Yeah, like I'm pretty heavy on the to-do list. I have a pretty bad short-term memory, so it all goes in the calendar or in the app if it's personal stuff like around the house or whatever it may be. I will say I'm trying to be really religious about 5 o'clock comes because Arya goes to bed at 7.
Yeah.
So 5 o'clock comes, like I used to work later, but I try and go upstairs, make sure I get my hour in with her because man, these kids grow up so fast and it's just, I don't want to be the dad that just missed out on all of that. Yeah. So it's, I don't know, there's an element of like time blocking, I would say to my habits of 5 to 6, make sure I'm doing that in the morning, make sure I'm in the gym. A lot of it is around controlling my calendar to make sure that I'm leaving space for those things.
Okay. I appreciate that. I do have to get better with the time blocking, but I like that. Okay. So these ones, we are getting close to the end here. So there's 4 more questions, but how has your definition of success evolved from your early ventures to now, or your early life to now? Doesn't even have to be venture related.
How has my definition of success changed? This might be bad to say, but I do think You don't do business just for the money, but at the end of the day, if a business is not making money, are you really creating value for people? Are you really good at business? And so I do think, like, for me, if I've decided to play the game of business, like if I decide to play the game of golf, my definition of success is how low is my score, right? Like it's super black or white for me. I think it's just, you can put a number on it. And for me, like business success is, yeah, am I getting to, I just want to build the biggest salad business in the game, right? How big can we go? Can we continue doubling every year while having a team of people that want to be there, that aren't always being burnt out? And, you know, it's that combination of, hey, let's get business success while also actually enjoying the ride. And so what does success look like? I mean, for me right now, it is just, does the thing keep going up and to the right while also being a formative, enjoyable experience, not just for me, but for the team that is doing this thing. Yeah. I did always used to think though that it was like so much more about, oh, like you're put on this earth to do this one thing and this one passion. And for me, when I was a kid, I thought, oh yeah, that's golf. Like I'm so into this. Yeah. And I think what I've learned now is it's more just the joy of seeing progress in something, at least for me. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be business. Like I said, at some other point, there's going to be another season, or heck, maybe it goes back to I'm just trying to make as many 4-footers as I can. I don't know.
4-footer putts.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's just, I don't know. It's not all about the outcome. I think, like I said before, it's just wake up. Can you make progress at this? And then what is the result is what you wait and see.
Okay. So success to you is, it appears to be something deeper than just wealth, fame, all that stuff. It's personal. It's looking at yourself every day and being like, hey, I am improving. That whole meme culture of 1% better each day is something that kind of drives you. Whether or not you can measure that, you just like to look back and reflect and say, hey, where I was last year to where I am now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to say it. I think it is about potential. Like in business, sure, like dollars, customers, that's a leaderboard, but that is not the main thing. It is about every person has some amount of potential, and how much of that are you actually maximizing and are you realizing on? Yeah. And yeah, I do want to be able to look back and go, okay, yeah, I have changed and grown this past year. I'm not just sitting and staying the same.
Nice. Who'd you say, just a quick answer, who's your role models? Who's been your role model?
Different people. I would say a lot like you, like I listen to a lot of podcasts too. So I would say so many of my role models, Chris Williamson, honestly, is a big one. I used to listen to Aubrey Marcus a lot, who blended this health, spirituality with being an incredible business entrepreneur. Love that, where he showed, okay, you can do business in a little bit of a different way. Yeah. And then there's others in the community like Ray DePaul. Like I think I'm not doing what he's doing right now, but the idea of having a career, having all of these experiences that allowed you to be successful in business, and then you have won the game and now you're trying to help others win the game. Yeah. I think that is an incredible career progression that I really look up to and admire too.
Yeah, he's coming up on what, 15 years? Almost 15 years in that role. Yeah. And he thought he was just, because as an educator, I think he has contracts for 5 years at a time. And we're going to have him on here. And so he's renewed it twice, which he always thought he was just going to do it once.
Yeah, I think because he just, it's like the joy of seeing others make progress too. And yeah, I don't think it's like any one person. For me, it's almost like specific people for very specific things.
And that's fine, yeah.
Like you see this Brian Johnson guy on the health side, and he's just like the most data-driven, I'm never going to die guy. And it's, okay, just in this very thin sliver of health, okay, now that guy. Yeah. But then you find different people for different slivers.
Yeah, that's life. Choice. Choosing like who you want to be a role model for parenting. Who do you want it for your business goals? Who do you want it for your spiritual, natural drive, stuff like that. Yeah.
What about you?
Who's my... Yeah. Ray has always been one. Obviously, my dad in certain aspects too. Just being a great father. And recently, and I've mentioned this to a few of our friends, people like you, Mike, Rudy, who have recently came into their father their fatherhood roles. That really inspires me. I have a bunch of friends in high school as well. That's a chapter that I hope to get to, and just watching you guys still be productive, well-driven, but amazing fathers is hugely inspirational.
Oh, thanks, man. You will be a crazy good dad. I don't know what it is, but like the kids just, it's like magnets to you.
One day we'll get there. I appreciate that. So last two questions. What advice would you give your younger self in terms of what to strive for and where to put your focus?
How young?
We'll leave it up for interpretation.
Okay.
Yeah. At university, Derek.
Yeah, I think I've said it before, but it's just to not give into the distraction of what's actually not causing progress, and to not care as much about what other people think of you is a big one. But in general, I think my methodology of going all in is good, but don't get addicted to the like cheap dopamine hits of whatever it is that you are doing. Actually try and figure out what is it that will continue to help you make progress, because the more time you can spend doing that, the quicker you're going to get to whatever it is at the other end of that path. And you can figure that out by just talking to more people that have actually done there and done that what you want to do. Right? So I don't know. I think that looking back, young Derek is probably like the biggest thing in my opinion, for sure.
Yeah, that's good. One thing that I keep picking up in your points throughout this discussion has been human engagement. And I think that's something that we're really going to have to put more of a focus on. So somebody that is listening to was talking about right now, we are in the attention economy right now. So everybody's vying for your 5 seconds of interest. The next economy that they think we're going to get to is authenticity. And it's being able to have deep-rooted conversations with people and actually feeling like you're connected. You have their undivided attention. The beautiful part about this discussion has been nearly an hour of you and I without having our cell phones going off. Just literally, This feels like us just shooting the shit. And I think as technology is just pulling our attention in so many different directions right now, having actual like human engagement is going to be so important. So having the discussion to be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking for my future with anybody in person is probably going to give you all of the good chemicals. So.
Yeah, and just having those soft skills, it is one of those things that I think as the world gets more automated and advanced, those soft skills will be actually more important probably.
Yeah.
Are we getting everything online, or is there's this kind of certain point where it's, no, actually I want to be speaking to a person, and people are going to crave that more and more. I know our team craves it being part remote. Yeah. So yeah, for sure. Like just that on its own is a skill, right?
Humans are still at the core of everything that we're automating. Like we're automating things to improve customer experiences. So how do we still add that human aspect, stuff like that? But I like that. Okay, last question. What would you tell somebody, or what advice would you give somebody that feels that they're average?
I would say if you feel like you're average, well, one, you're probably not. It depends on where you're at in the world, right? If you're here in Canada, at university, in the US, wherever it is, look around, because average is all just complete perspective, right? It's all comparative to what is around you, and the chances are you're in a room that actually isn't average. You just feel average because you're among unaverage people that are actually not, right? And so I think that's probably a lesson in its own, right? That's something that happened to us, is put yourself in a room of people that you feel like are excelling or whatever, are not so average. Yeah, there's something magical that happens in that, where it's if you walk in a room and you do feel like you're the most exceptional person in there, you're probably in the wrong room. And it comes back to Mount Royal, like that is the magic of being in a room of people that actually want to try and, do more. And so I think that's probably the best advice that you can give, honestly, is if you feel like you're average, just go out there and try and get yourself around people that are doing bigger and better things. And then eventually you'll find yourself waking up and probably doing the same.
Nice. So that's all I have for questions. I wanted to wrap it up. This is something that I saw in School of Greatness, and I've always appreciated it because we don't get it enough, is just thanking you for being such an incredible person. I wasn't blowing smoke. You actually do encourage me for when I hit that next chapter of what it looks like to be a successful father. I know it's new to you, but you appear to be doing it fantastically.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you as a good friend, and thanks for jumping on. How can people on Not So Average support you?
I mean, if you like to eat healthy, you want to have the best damn packaged salad of your life, go to inspirego.ca.
Yeah, I'm a frequent user
Try some
of this.
salads.
Try some salads. Derek Rucki, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, my man.
Let's get after it.